Russia's massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake on August 4th was one of the largest in recorded history. The event provided a masterclass on how multiple nations conduct their emergency management. But out of the 4 major countries in the firing line of a tsunami, which one raised the most concern? And when it comes to disruptions like these, many businesses lean on the support of a consultancy. But according to McKinsey, Bloomberg and investors, many businesses that historically helped us through day-to-day activities are now going through a slow death. Coming up on Unbreakable Ventures, we're examining 2 critical vulnerabilities: how New Zealand's emergency communication system is losing public trust at the worst possible time, and why AI disruption is sending investors fleeing from entire industries. We will also look at our 5 quick snippets segment detailing some emerging threats we're monitoring and that you should know about. Welcome to Unbreakable Ventures. I'm Ollie Law, and you are listening to our fortnightly risk update where we dive into emerging and current risks from around the world, focusing on some big stories and some you may have missed. We use the categories from the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report to simplify the threats we're monitoring, but we also do some deep dives and interviews with industry peers. It's Monday the 11th of August and we're covering the globe's top threats over the last fortnight. So grab a coffee and let's get into it.
Well, countries around the world have escaped largely unscathed after the 6th most powerful earthquake on record triggered tsunami warnings across the Pacific.
Japan evacuates 2 million citizens. Chile clears its coastlines. And in New Zealand, people complain on social media about being woken up too early. Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula earthquake sent tsunami waves across the Pacific, and with it plenty of evidence on how multiple nations conduct emergency management. It was like conducting a scenario exercise the size of the Pacific. But while other nations took decisive action, New Zealand's primary response to the 6:30 a.m. emergency alert was anger over disrupted sleep, not concern for safety. It raised discussion on the systems that are in place, the evolution of technology, and how the general public react to such events. The deeper issue here isn't just public apathy, it's a broken emergency alert system that's rapidly losing credibility when the country needs it most.
But the official emergency alerts that were sent out were a mess. Some people received multiple alerts across the day and overnight. Others received none at all. Even Parliament was confused as to what to do.
Do we know? Can I have some advice, please, from the... I think we will. We'll just adjourn for a moment until we're certain.
Yes, totally accept the fact that we've had late alerts, multiple alerts, some alerts that haven't come through. Apparently there's a whole lot of technical reasons for that. NEMA now is working with the telcos to make sure that we make that system even better.
New Zealand Civil Defence sent out alerts with technical glitches that delivered the same message multiple times to some phones while completely missing others. Some people received 8 alerts overnight, others got none at all. But the technical failures are just symptoms of a much larger systemic problem. New Zealand has a poor universal framework for emergency warnings. The result is a patchwork of inconsistent alerts, system glitches, and overuse in low urgency situations that's creating what experts call alert fatigue. Earlier in 2025, the local Christchurch tsunami warning test failed due to the person responsible for running it being distracted. When locals found out the alarm was operated by a single individual in a city 1,000 kilometres away, major concerns were raised. This event hints at findings often experienced through practicing game theory, specifically the prisoner's dilemma. When individuals prioritise short-term personal comfort over collective safety, everyone becomes more vulnerable. We've seen this pattern in aviation disasters like the American Airlines flight in Denver, where people endangered the lives of their fellow passengers by retrieving luggage during evacuations. This is convenience over group survival, and we saw examples of it on August 4th. Now we're seeing the same dynamic play out with emergency alerts. Spend a few moments on forums on the day of the 6:30 alert, and you would see people are teaching others how to disable emergency notifications on their smartphones. They're frustrated with false alarms and technical glitches. Each person who opts out increases the collective risk for their entire community. New Zealand doesn't necessarily have a technology gap. They have a processes and systems gap, which is ironic given the highly successful SIMS model used nationwide. SMS systems, radio networks, and public digital billboards could provide graduated response options, reducing false urgency. but resource constraints and budget limitations block adoption of these alternatives. Meanwhile, NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency, targets a 2027 design release for a common operating platform, moving at a bureaucratic pace while public trust erodes daily. This issue is about preserving the psychological impact of the loudest alerts for true emergencies. When everything feels urgent, nothing is urgent. The breakdown in trust we're witnessing could prove catastrophic when New Zealand faces its next major disaster, like the South Island's Alpine Fault, referred to as AF8. What makes this particularly concerning is the international context. While New Zealand struggles with basic alert delivery, countries like Japan have turned tsunami response into a refined science. Their systems are tested, trusted, and effective because they've learned from past disasters and invested in both technology and public education. Having spent much time in Japan, it's clear to me that emergency response is ingrained in the culture there. The systems and tools in place are not political. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires immediate action. Proper technology investment, clear alert thresholds, and graduated response systems that preserve the most urgent warnings for genuine life-threatening events. Without urgent reform, public apathy could turn the next major disaster from a manageable crisis into an unnecessary catastrophe. Businesses can look at this event in two ways. First, it's a fresh case study, which means a great scenario to practice internally. Play it out so that your team are practicing what might happen if a system like the Civil Defence's emergency alerts weren't available. In fact, try playing out a scenario where no technology is available, and you may see how vulnerable you really are to your phones and laptops. Secondly, the tsunami threat tells us we need to continue to work on a culture of resilience. Kiwis are naturally resilient, staunch people. It's a small, ambitious nation with world-class businesses, athletes, and stories. But does this excuse New Zealand from always learning, always adapting, and taking the emergency services advice at any moment? Nationwide, that's a big ask, but at your organisation, it's paramount. The New Zealand Civil Defence faces an impossible situation. Damned if they alert, damned if they don't. Wake people up for a non-event and they disable their phones. Stay silent when the big one hits and people die. But accepting this broken system isn't the answer. Before we move on to our second threat update this week, let's look at 5 quick-fire emerging threats we've picked up throughout August. These will be noteworthy stories we think you should know about, but less detailed than our 3 core threats analysed. South Australia's algal bloom crisis has entered its 6th month, with the Karenia mikimotoi outbreak devastating over 400 marine species across 4,500 square kilometres. Small fishing businesses report daily revenues dropping to as low as $15, while the government announces a $28 million support package. The bloom represents one of the worst marine disasters in living memory, with no natural way to stop its progression. We first reported on this crisis in May and will continue to watch its evolution over the coming months. Solana-based decentralized finance platform Credix lost $4.5 million when hackers manipulated its multi-sig wallet system using fake collateral tokens. The incident highlights continuing vulnerabilities in DeFi infrastructure, though the platform has negotiated with the exploiter to reimburse users within 48 hours. This breach underscores the risks inherent in decentralized financial systems and has sparked conversation on whether those exploited pay or don't pay the hackers. OpenAI's release of GPT-5 has caused criticism across online tech communities, with users questioning whether the improvements justify the hype. The lukewarm reception suggests AI advancement may be reaching diminishing returns in public perception, even as technical capabilities continue to expand. Many LLM experts are beginning to see the technological advancement plateau after what has been a sharp few years of AI rise. CEO Sam Altman has responded directly to criticism in an AMA session, stating that much of the issues rested on some unpatched functions and the closure of ChatGPT 4.0. OpenAI's pricing for the new model has also caused uproar in the wider LLM community, leaving Claude's Anthropic heavily overpriced compared to Gemini and Almond's latest release. OpenAI is now valued at over $500 billion. A breach at DeVita has exposed 916,000 patient records. The kidney dialysis provider suffered a significant data breach, affecting nearly 1 million personal and clinical information. Remediation costs reached $13.5 million for DeVita, highlighting the ongoing vulnerability of healthcare infrastructure to cyber attacks. Affected individuals have been offered credit monitoring services, but analysts see these increases in cyber attacks increasing insurance premiums significantly. This can leave smaller businesses with fewer options. Shiseido, a Japanese multinational cosmetic company who bought Drunk Elephant for $845 million in 2019, has experienced a 65% sales decline due to brand dilution and trend-chasing strategies. The crisis reflects broader challenges in maintaining brand authenticity under market pressure, with both companies now undertaking major rebranding efforts to reconnect with consumers. Further sources and references can be found in the footnotes of this podcast. But without further delay, let's jump into our second threat this fortnight. While emergency systems struggle with public trust, financial markets are grappling with their own form of disruption, and this time artificial intelligence is the force reshaping entire industries faster than most expected. With the impressive rise of AI technology, traders are going all in on anything contributing to this pivotal technological evolution. Nvidia, currently valued at $4.46 trillion, making it the world's most valuable company, has been a major drawcard for investors. But where investors are going all in on chip manufacturers and AI labs, they're fleeing other companies. The speed of this transformation is catching even experts off guard and may hint at a smouldering crisis over the horizon. We thought this disruption would happen over 5 years. It seems like it's going to happen over 2. Service-based businesses with high headcount are proving particularly vulnerable, even those with robust business models from the previous era of technology. The numbers tell a stark story. Companies like Wix.com and Shutterstock are down at least 33% this year, while Adobe has fallen 23% amid concerns that clients will shift to AI platforms for image and video generation. These aren't struggling companies though, they're profitable businesses being repriced because investors believe AI will fundamentally change their markets in the coming years. Bank of America strategists have identified 26 companies most at risk from AI disruption. The list reads like a who's who of successful digital businesses, the likes of web development firms, digital image companies, and software makers. What they share is a business model that AI can potentially replicate faster and cheaper. Consider the advertising industry, where Omnicom Group has dropped 15% this year as Meta reportedly moves toward fully automated ad creation through AI. WPP is also down more than 50%. These are companies that survived the internet revolution, but they're struggling to adapt to an AI-driven future. The disruption follows a familiar historical pattern. The telegraph gave way to telephones, horse-drawn carriages were replaced by automobiles, Blockbuster was wiped out by Netflix. Now, AI threatens to accelerate this creative destruction process exponentially. Any company where you're paying someone to do something that AI can do faster and cheaper faces existential risk. Graphic design, administrative work, data analysis. These aren't niche markets, they're massive employment sectors. But the threat isn't uniform across all companies. Alphabet, despite having cutting-edge AI capabilities, appears on Bank of America's risk list because it's playing defense, protecting its search market share rather than creating new revenue streams. Intel's CEO Lip-Bu Tan admitted his company had missed the AI train and were now dealing with what might be their downfall. The perception is that even AI leaders aren't immune to disruption. The speed of change is what's catching investors off guard, with tech giants like Microsoft and Meta pouring hundreds of billions into AI development. The timeline for disruption has compressed dramatically. What used to take decades now happens in years, and with the rate of adoption, we may see it compressed into months. For businesses, this creates an urgent strategic imperative. Identify where AI could replicate your core functions, then either adapt your business model or risk becoming irrelevant. The companies that survive won't be those that ignore AI, but those that reimagine their value proposition in an AI-driven world. Artificial intelligence is not a value proposition. It is the resource that can power why people work with you. For consultancy-based operations, this is the key to thriving during this time. AI can help enhance workflows and automations, but it is seldom the reason why customers use your service. The market is essentially pricing in a future where traditional service models become obsolete. Whether that future arrives in 2 years or 5, the financial reshuffling is happening now, and it's reshaping how we think about business sustainability in the age of artificial intelligence. That That's it for today's update. If you need help navigating these threats or building a plan to protect your business, the same advisors who collate these insights are here to help. Head over to unbreakableventures.com to book a complimentary chat online with one of them. And if you found this resource useful, consider subscribing to Unbreakable Ventures or sharing the article with your network. After all, resilience is about community and communication. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, stay safe.
Unbreakable Ventures is brought to you by the Senior Advisory Team at Fixing, a boutique resilience advisory based in the Oceania, ASEAN and India regions. Special thanks to our sponsor and Europe's leading SaaS provider for resilience software, F24. Our resources are researched and published by industry specialists across New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia and the UK. This podcast provides advice and opinion on disaster recovery and the threat landscape. The content is not a substitute for expert guidance during a crisis. Unbreakable Ventures is trademarked by Fixing Consulting Partners, a Fixing Group company.